Hey guys, it's Ben from Board to Bits, and this is part 8 of our video series on creating a point-and-click game in Unity. So in the past few videos we have set up our nodes, we have created motion between those nodes, and we've given our player control of where they're looking with the mouse. Now that we have all these things in place, we can actually start building out a bit more robust of a node network with more locations, more props to look at, and kind of take advantage of the work that we've set in place here. So in order to do that, we're going to need to make a couple of prefabs. You'll notice down here in Assets I've created a prefabs folder, and that's where we're going to be putting a location prefab and a prop prefab. These aren't prefabs in the sense that you typically will use them where, like, say you have an enemy prefab and you're going to have a script that instantiates them. They're really just more of a template so we can drag and drop as many locations as we want to and not have to start from scratch every time. So in order to create our location prefab, we're going to start by creating an empty, and we're going to name that location prefab. And we're going to add two components to this. We're going to add the location script that we have. As well, we're going to add the sphere collider. Now, right now, if we rotate this, we're going to see that this is kind of I'll focus on it here, kind of floating in space. It's not where we want it to be. If we look at our table location node, it's actually right out on the ground, and it's pretty big too. So we're going to quickly adjust these. We're going to make this 0, 0, 0, just so that we always have a central starting point. And we're going to make the radius 2. We're not going to mess with the reachable nodes because we don't want these by default to have any reachable nodes, but we are going to add a camera position to this because we want a default location for the camera to be. So I'm going to create another empty. I will call this camera position, and we're going to child that. Actually, we're going to reset its transform first, and then I'm going to child it to the location. Now let's look again. Our table is actually a really good kind of default setting here. How we had this here was it was pretty close to 0 and 0 on the X and Z, so as far as how far back and how close it was to the location. And then it was up about 2.2, give or take. I'll even change that to 2.2. Keep it a round number. Just so that we were, and that's because we were looking actually down on this table, and that's actually a little bit higher. How I've generally been building this world is that our camera is at about 1.75, so that's about the height of like a 6-foot tall person. That's where their eyes would roughly be. So the only reason this one is a little bit higher is because we're actually looking down at the table at that point. So for our location prefab here, I'm actually going to set this just to 0, 0, and 0, or 1.75 for the Y, and then 0 for the X and Z. And it's just going to be kind of, looking straight out, I think is fine for this, because there might be a lot of locations that are just, instead of it being actually at a table or at a desk or at or a machine or something that you're going to be looking at, they're just, as you're getting from place to place, and in which case we can literally just be floating in the center of this camera position, because that's where we're moving to. So that should work. This should be all we need for our location prefab. So we're going to click and drag that into the assets folder, into the prefabs folder. And now we're going to delete that from our hierarchy because we don't need that one. We have the prefab now. And we're going to create another empty game object. And we're going to call this one prop prefab. And this one, again, we're going to reset this to 0, 0, 0. And we are going to add to this one the prop script. And we will add the sphere. I'm not going to add a collider to this one because it's really going to depend on what we have, what our object is in the scene. That's going to affect what this node has for a collider. For example, on our cube collider, we actually have a box collider, or on our cube rather, we have a box collider. for our sphere, we have a sphere collider because it kind of matches the shape nicely. So we're actually going to leave that off of this. It won't break our it won't break the prefab because we have set it up that if there isn't a collider, it can still work. But we will need a camera position for this one as well. So we're going to create another empty, name this camera position. Now this will obviously get a little bit confusing. If you are ever looking like in the list format of your game objects, you might see, you know, dozens of just camera positions. So if you want to start naming these specific to what their props are, you can do that. Otherwise, it's probably better to just search for whatever the item is that you're looking for and then go to its camera position. And again, we're going to reset this. And this one I'm actually just going to keep at 0, 0, 0 because props might be like, as we see here, on a table or other places, and you're probably going to, at this point, be simulating like bending down to look at something or, you know, reaching up to look at a top shelf. So any of these positions could change often. So we'll just keep that at 0, 0, 0. Now, one thing I forgot to do with the location, and I'm going to make sure to do here, is we do need to wire our camera positions. So I'm going to drag the prop's camera position onto the prop there, and then I'm going to create that prefab. And I can delete this in the hierarchy. Now, for the location one, we've obviously just got it as a prefab here, and we can still do what we need to, though, because we can click on this little arrow here will show any children, first-generation children it has. And then we can just click on our location prefab to show that in the inspector and drag the camera position. So now every prefab that we create of either of these will always have its camera position tied to its camera position variable. So we've got those both set, so that's all good. Now we can start adding some locations to our scene. So to start that, what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to go to our bird's eye view here so we can kind of see the layout of the room as we have it. And we can size this up a bit so that we can see it a little better. And I'm going to make this an orthogonal. No, I'm going to keep it perspective view just because if you click this top here where you see this kind of these rays coming out from one point, that's perspective, and then if you click it again, they'll just be parallel, and that's orthogonal view. So that if you were to rotate like something like this, you'll see that it's all very, you know, it's kind of an isometric view, not orthogonal. And then if we go to perspective, it's actually got that kind of depth perception thing going on. I'm going to keep it in perspective just because we can actually see our walls right now. In our proper game design, you know, once we design a level with art assets and that, it'll be easier to see our walls, but right now they're very thin and very difficult to discern, so we'll use it this way. So we've got our walls here. We've got this first table, and I'm actually going to move this table. So if I click on table and drag it back this way, that is, so that way we're actually going to really move around this room. I might do like a central node and then have different places you can go from there. So let's drop in a location node, or a location prefab rather, and we're going to rename this one. And we're going to rename this, we'll just name it Room Center actually. So this one I think is actually just going to kind of be good as it is right there. And then we're going to add, make the table a reachable node from this. So for that, I'm going to drag the table over to this reachable node section of the room center, and that adds that right in there. Now you'll notice at this point that we're changing this prefab, and so you're going to have this opportunity to revert it or apply it. You don't want to do those because, like I say, we're not trying to affect the source prefab. We are now customizing this one to our purposes. So that'll be the first one there. Now we can add another location prefab, and this one let's move over to, we're going to move it into this corner down here. So move it into this back corner, and this one I think we're going to add some furniture to this one. So I'm going to focus on it, and I'm going to kind of rotate, focus again, there we go. And I think I'm going to add a little piece of furniture to this one. So we'll do create 3D object, and we'll create another cube, kind of like we did for our table. But this one I'm just going to keep it a cube. That'll be fine. Its position is fine. We'll make its y 0.5 so it's resting exactly on the floor. And we'll rotate it on its y-axis by about 45 degrees, so it's kind of fitting into this corner. Yeah, maybe make it 30. Add some interest to the angle there. It's not all perfectly square. I'm going to nudge it back into the wall there a little bit. You can see eventually where it starts to break into the wall. We'll just keep it about there. And now we're going to add this to this new prefab, and we should probably rename our prefab. So we'll call this one corner box. And then we'll add this cube to it as a child. And we'll call this box model. Because again, we want to make sure this isn't actually really interactive or doing anything on our scene. It's just there to hold up a prop or two. And I am going to also on that delete this box collider component because we're not going to need that on there, and so there's no need for Unity to be checking on that collider. We can add, I believe we had a material for tables like that. We sure did, so I'm going to add that material to the box as well. You can just drag that right on there. And now we're also going to drag on to this a prop prefab. And so the prop prefab, you'll notice it appears at the 0, 0 position of the actual corner box node. And what we can do for that instead is we can check what our box model position is. And so that's at 1.42 and negative 1.12. So if we want to put a prop right on that box, we can really just copy that. Copy that component, and then go back to our prop prefab and just paste. Oh, we can't just paste positions. Interesting. I thought you could paste position, but I guess not. We'll just paste all the values. That's fine. We do want to move this up by 1, though, to 1, so it's on top of the box, not just sitting in the middle of it. And lastly, we'll need to add something to this. So we can add one of our 3D objects here, and we'll add a cylinder. We don't have one of those yet. And I'm going to size this down a bit. Let's see here. How tall is this thing? Oh yeah, that's very tall. We don't want it that tall. I'm going to scale this down to about 0.5 and maybe even 0.25 in these both directions here. We'll do 0.25 in all. There we go. So now it's a nice little, almost like a can of soda or something. And again, we're gonna actually make this a child of the corner box, and we're going to actually we're gonna make it a child of the prop prefab. And lastly, we're gonna rename the prefab. So we'll call this can prop maybe, and then the cylinder we'll rename it to can model. And now we can actually just reset this to 0 and 0 here and here. And then we've got 1/4, I believe that was about size 2. So if we say y of 0.25, that should be sitting right on that box now. If I focus this and I go to one of our edge views, yeah, that's right on the bottom there, so that looks good. And we can add a material to that as well. I'll add the green. I don't think we've done that one yet. So we've now got a corner box with a prop on it, and we've got a room center position as well, or node. So what we can do here is we can start wiring these together. So from our room center, I'm going to go back to the top view here. From our room center, I want to be able to reach both of these nodes. So in our reachable nodes, we have the table already added, but I want to also add this corner box location. So I'm going to drag that into reachable nodes for the room center, and that adds there. Now, for our corner box location, I do want this can to be one of its child nodes. So I'm going to quickly drag the can prop to that one. And then in our can, we want to make sure that we're noting our location, which is the corner box. So we're going to drag that onto there. Lastly, we don't have any reachable nodes from the prop, so that's all set. Last thing we're going to need to do, though, is set our camera positions. Currently, our camera position for the corner box is just kind of, it's in front of the box, but it's looking out to the just to this wall over here, which isn't very good when we want to be focusing on this can. So we're going to use our system of setting up our camera positions that we used before, where I'm going to move the scene view to roughly what I want to be looking at when we're at this table. And about there looks good. And now I'm going to bring our camera rig. Actually we can't do that now because the actually what we should just be able to do is take our corner box position and say game object align with view. And so that is now set in the exact position of where our scene view was. And we're going to do the same thing with the can. This one we're going to bring in nice and close because we're actually going to be like zoomed in on it and, you know, inspecting it in some way. Maybe that's got a clue that we need for our game. So we'll do something like that. I might even move over a little bit to the side here. Give it a little bit more visual interest. And again, we're just going to make sure we've got our camera position selected. And we'll go asset, game object, align with view. You can also hit Control-Shift-F. And there we go. So now our camera positions are set for those two. I'm okay for now on the room center with just kind of pointing toward the table. That is fine for that one's purposes because we can look around and click on other things. So now that we've got all those wired and our camera positions ready, we should be able to actually test this out. Oh, lastly, I'm going to add, let me double check, my room is 0, 0, 0. I'm going to add these two to our room. Oops. Child them to the room so that these are all within this one main space. So now we're going to go back to our game. And it's worth noting I have gizmos on up here. You can turn that on and off by just clicking gizmos. It's useful when you're building your network because, especially for things like that center node, there's really not anything right now that's going to tell us where that is. So that'll give you a clue as to where you can click right now. So let's hit play and try this out and see if this all works right now. So we start and we move to the table here. And so now from this table, the reachable nodes should be, we've got the cube and the sphere, which are reachable, and we see they're highlighted. And then if I scroll around this way, we see that this table is highlighted as well. Now, our corner box is also highlighted, which shouldn't be because it is not a reachable node right now. And I think I might know why that's the case, but I can fix that in 1 second. So, but first I want to show, so now if we click here, we zoom back to this, location, and we also kind of rotate because we're going to be looking back at this table. We may want to adjust that later where we kind of keep our positioning when we're going to a node that doesn't have a specific thing to focus on, but for right now we'll keep that as is. So now I'm going to turn this way around to here, and we should be able to click on this and go to the box. It's a little bit far away right now. I'll probably zoom that in. We might find the same thing if I click on the can here. And the can is for some reason not registering my click. So we're going to, oh, and I know why that is. Because we never did actually add that, add any sort of a collider. The model has a collider, but the node does not. So there's a couple quick things we can fix here before we wrap this up. First and foremost, I'm going to go to that can we added. And I definitely want to add I'm going to add a box collider to it. It's a little bit simpler of a collider, and it'll work for our purposes. I'm going to zoom in here and focus. It's clearly way too big at the moment. And so I'm just going to adjust these sizes manually. we're going to go to about 1 that way, or 2, sorry, about 1/4 this way. 1/4 on the Z. And if we do half looks about right on the Y, but we do have to bring this up by about 0.5. Nope, that's too much, 0.25. It's really, at this point I'm just doing this by eyeballing it. And so now, as we see here, we've got our collider pretty nicely sized. There's a little bit of extra around the corners, but that's actually okay. I like there to be a little bit of room for error when you're clicking. Now the other thing we need to do here is I'm going to save this, and we need to dive into our node script. Because right now, the problem we have, if I hit, I'm going to go back to our game view. If I hit play right now, you're going to see, oh, because I don't have the room selected, there we go, that all of our nodes right now are active. Every single node we have, I think, yeah, every single node we have is currently working. And that is not what we want, because for the very start of our game, we could actually click on the sphere and move to the sphere. Like, I'll even show it, like we go right there, and that is not what we want. What we set up before is that only when we're at a given location should that location's collider be on. So what we need to do is we need to say instead that when we first start the game, all the nodes should turn themselves off, and then we're going to set a starting node. And actually, I'm going to quickly look here. And we are running really long on this video, so I'm actually going to cut this one here, and our next video is going to be about actually kind of improving our node network a little bit more so that it's good from the start and everything is working the way we want it to from the start. So thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.